I invite our chairperson, Mr. B. Chandrasekhar, to welcome our guest, Dr. Ashish Prasann, and present the sapling pot. Green initiatives aims for environmental awareness, including actions that can help to reduce pollution and carbon emissions, and to promote the health of the planet Earth. National Education Policy NEP 2020 stresses upon appropriate integration of environmental awareness and sensitivity towards its conservation and sustainable development in school curriculum. One of the recommendations of NEP 2020 is to make environmental education an integral part of school curriculum. Introduction of the environmental education as a contemporary subject at all relevant stages will surely help in developing India's future aspirations with regard to environment. Today, on discussion for the above topic, we are fortunate to have with us two eminent speakers, Dr. Ashish Prasann and Mrs. Vijaya Kartha. So, I request our principal, Dr. Julie Samarpita, to deliver the welcome address.
A very good morning to all of you present here. And before we start the session, first let me tell you that DBMS College of Education, as just now Shivambi said, our college is organizing this international conference on 13th and 14th December. We had two national conferences in the past, and this is the first time we have organized international conference with the wholehearted support of the chairperson, Mr. B. Chandrasekhar. I take this opportunity to welcome educational stalwarts, Mrs. B. Neelkanthan, who is the patron of DBMS Trust, Mr. B. Chandrasekhar, Chairperson Finance, Mrs. Lalita Chandrasekhar, Chairperson Administration, who have always encouraged in organizing events which are in the interest of the students. They are the torch bearers of society and understand the global demand of healing the planet. As nation builders, these stalwarts have realized that the government cannot do everything alone. So, alone to bring change in the society, in our thought process. Without education, no social change can be brought. So, we thought of organizing this international conference, dear students, faculty members, for all of you. I also welcome Mrs. Sripriya Dharmarajan, Secretary of DBMS College, and Joint Secretary Mrs. Sudha Dilip, who are working tirelessly to make the international conference successful. Secretary Governing Body Mr. Satish Singh and Mr. Shiv Shankar Singh, who are present here. This is the gesture they show that they are with us in whatever venture we take. I extend my warm welcome to both of you respected dignitaries. Secretary, President, Management members of DBMS Kadma School, Principal Mrs. Gurpreet Bhangra and Mrs. Bhuvna, and in front I can see Mrs. Anita Ramakrishnan, and all those special guests who are with us today. I extend a very warm welcome to all the management members of DBMS Kadma School. We are one family. And you know, without your unconditional support, we would not have thought of organizing this international conference. We also have amongst us a very special guest, Dr. Anjali Kishore Sahai and Mrs. Meenakshi Narayan. I extend my heartfelt welcome to both of you. I take this opportunity, it's a very special occasion for me to welcome Dr. Ashish Prasann, who was born and brought up in this steel city, Jamshedpur. He is an agricultural economist in the World Bank and he is accompanied by his family. And it was so kind of him to have accepted our invitation to join the Prelude to the International Conference. Today's session is just a prelude to the conference which we are going to have on 13th and 14th December. I welcome dear students and faculty members. All of you are pillars of strength for this institution. Mrs. Vijayam Partha, who will be joining us online, I also welcome her in this session. She is placed in Pune and she is an eminent educationist. All of you know her as former principal of Kerala Samajam Model School. She is a very well-known name in the academic circle of the Steel City. Madam, if you are online, we are grateful for your presence today. Thank you all of you. And today's session is on a recipe for the livable planet. Dr. Ashish will speak in detail on it. He is associated with the World Bank, so I would like to quote that World Bank's report outlines a comprehensive strategy to significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the agri-food system while ensuring global food security. I know all of you would like to know about this agri-food system in detail, right, from Dr. Ashish Prasann. So I won't take much long. Thank you for being here, all of you. Once again, I extend my heartfelt welcome to each one of you present here. Thank you.
Moving further, I request Mrs. Kanchan Kumari to introduce us to Dr. Ashish Prasann.
Thank you, Subhangi. Good morning, respected patron ma'am, sir, all management members, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and fellow participants. It is both a privilege and a pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Ashish Prasann, a senior agriculture economist at the World Bank's Office of Global Director for the Agriculture and Food Global Practice. Dr. Prasann is a trailblazer in the field of agriculture, economics and climate change, bringing a wealth of experience and an unwavering commitment to sustainable development. Currently, Dr. Prasann focuses on one of the most pressing challenges of our time, that is mitigating climate change through transforming agri-food system and the strategic repurposing of agriculture support policies and programs. His work not only addresses environmental sustainability but also promotes economic resilience, making him a key figure in global effort to balance productivity and environmental stewardship. Dr. Prasann has co-authored Flagship Report for the World Bank, shaping thought leadership on the agriculture and food system worldwide. His impact extends across continents, having spearheaded investment and advisory projects in Latin America, the Caribbean and Sub-Saharan Africa, regions that are critical to global food security. His earlier tenure as a junior fellow for South Asia at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace reflect his deep understanding of geopolitical dimensions in agriculture and resource management. Dr. Prasan's academic credentials further underscore his expertise with a PhD in agriculture, food and resource economics from Michigan State University, a master's in public policy from the University of Chicago, and undergraduate degree in economics and international studies from Trinity College, USA. Today, we have the privilege of hearing Dr. Prashant as he shares his insight on recipe for livable planet. His vast experience and visionary thinking will undoubtedly enrich our understanding and inspire actionable strategy. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Ashish Prashant to the stage. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Please.
Thank you to the DBMS management. Thank you to all of you who are here. I'm very pleased to see such a large number of students because today's topic is about the future and it is about how we stop climate change in the future. So a lot of what we talk about, the actions will be taken during your lifetime. So it is really, you are the perfect audience today. And I'm deeply honored to be here today because this report that we'll be discussing today, the idea has always been to really disseminate it as widely as possible and receive ideas and feedback from students, from those who will be in positions of authority, positions of influence, policy making, as well as everybody who is part of the food system. All of us have food every day. Therefore, everybody is invested in what I'll be speaking about today. Food really is personal. We all care about what we eat. It gives us joy, it gives us sustenance, but it also contributes to climate change. And that's the aspect that I'll be speaking about today. Not just how food and the way we grow it, the way we produce it, the way we consume it influences climate change, but also the solutions to reversing these problems. So please, this is a presentation that I'll be making today, but I want this to be a very open exchange. And at times I will open it up to ask you your thoughts on various aspects. I want you to respond. I don't want you to feel shy. I don't want you to feel like I have to finish until you ask something. Okay, so this is very open. So the report that I'm talking about today, it's called Recipe for a Livable Planet. And this was launched recently by the World Bank in May of this year. And I'm one of the co-authors of the report. As somebody mentioned in my introduction, this is the World Bank's first comprehensive roadmap for climate change mitigation through the agri-food system. And so it's really a report which aims to influence how countries choose their policies and what investments they make in the agri-food system. So with that, so while that's being fixed, I just want to ask everybody here If you've been reading the newspapers this week, you might have read about what does COP29 stand for? Sir, please.
I was, frankly speaking, dismayed by the proceedings of COP29
Yes.
because it was a very, I've been following up COP29 for last many days that has been happening. I was frankly speaking very dismayed and disappointed that even rich countries who are contributing to the carbon emission, etc. in a big way, they are not willing to come forward in a big way for addressing the climate issues. And the conference has ended without much output, without much outcome, and the contribution proposed by the rich countries, it is not even a drop in the ocean, I must say. So, another issue that I am very much concerned personally is that the president-elect in the United States, who has also openly said that he is not very much tuned to the initiative on the climate change, and he wants to encourage fossil fuel in the United States, which is taking the world backward by a few decades. So these are some development which is causing great concern. Should be a concern to all of us.
Correct. No, absolutely correct on both counts. So plans for conference of parties, and it's an annual conference organized by the UN where every country sends their negotiators and representatives to speak about the issues that they are facing due to climate change and also agree on common solutions on the solutions, the path forward, and the financing and technology required to actually reduce GHG emissions. So as Sir mentioned correctly, the headlines, this is from yesterday, so this topic is highly relevant today. There was an agreement reached between all the countries in the world. So it's not just a region, it's global, where the agreement was that the rich industrialized countries, which have historically contributed more to global emissions, and by global emissions, a lot of it was caused by fossil fuels. So anytime you run your car, anytime we run any electrical appliance, it takes energy. And if the energy has a source which is a carbon-based source, meaning if it is petrol or gasoline, or if it is coal, it causes a chemical reaction which releases carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide, as all of you will know, traps heat. It traps heat in the atmosphere. And that's what raises the temperatures of the planet. Now, so this year, what happened last week was there was an agreement reached that the rich industrial countries, which have historically caused much of this problem, will pay about $300 billion per year from 2035, which to developing countries to actually make the investments to reduce emissions, because this is a global problem, right? So the problem itself is the world is heated, so everybody is impacted. If today India and China decide to switch their industrial production completely to green sources, to solar, to wind, it will affect not just India and China, it will improve the quality of life for everybody on the planet. Right? So it's a global problem, but each country can cause the problem to become worse. So it requires a global agreement. Right? But the agreement itself, the Indian representative called it very disappointing, because $300 billion is much less than what is estimated to be required per year. The range is usually $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion per year. And as again mentioned, there's a lot of apprehension that the US government now will not be as supportive of this deal. The last time President Trump was in the White House, he pulled out of all climate negotiations. And the US is now the world's largest economy, the largest emitter, the largest producer of fossil fuels. So if it steps back, there is no chance of actually reducing emissions. So those are kind of the headlines. Now, I want to talk about one part of the economy, which is the agri-food system. Why do I want to talk about the agri-food system? Because most of us, when we think of green initiatives, which is the topic of this conference, we think of planting trees or solar panels or electric vehicles. These are the ideas we have in mind. And they're all very important ideas because the energy sector, the transport sector are key, have been historically key to reducing emissions. But energy and transport already, we do have some solutions. If everybody switches today to having a solar panel run their energy needs, that will already solve a lot of the problem. But it is insufficient. The food system, which we don't think about, is causing 1/3 of global emissions today, 31%. Yet it doesn't get as much attention because we have not thought about this problem in terms of food historically. So that's why this report we have focused on the food system, because it's an underappreciated problem. Now, what I want to, just to have a framework of ideas, essentially we are caught in a vicious circle today, right? What is the vicious circle? The first step is when any agricultural production takes place, when rice is grown, when dairy is produced, all of this causes emissions of carbon dioxide, of methane, of nitrous oxide. These three are key greenhouse gases. There are others also, but these are the main ones. This means that there is more emissions in the air, more heating, the planet's temperatures go up, which in turn reduces the yields from crops, livestock, etc. And then what happens when yields go down? If there's not enough food, farmers tend to go cut more of the forest to expand their production. Or they will choose some other methods to try and increase yields. And that again leads to more emissions, more heating, lower yields. So it's a vicious cycle. And why is this cycle important? Okay, so this cycle that I'm talking about, why is it important? It's important because it tells us if you don't do anything about the emissions problem, this cycle will keep on going, and it is not enough to say we will only adapt to climate change. If the temperature keeps rising, the costs of adaptation keep going up, and at some point you can't keep up. Why is this important? Traditionally, countries which are developing say, no, we will only undertake adaptation methods. We will not engage in mitigation. That has been usually the policy. Not for every country, but many. The point here is that's insufficient because of this cycle. Now, I don't know if you can see up till the back over here. But basically, this is a pie chart showing 3 parts of the food system. And I'll just point out to you, the orange part is farm gate, meaning everything that happens on the farm, crop and livestock activities. So about 45%, so less than half of the emissions of the food system come from on the farm. Then there is pre and post production, meaning things that happen before and after agricultural production. So everything from production of fertilizers, pesticides, all the way up till how is food taken to your plate. It goes from the farm to a processing center, to retail, to transport. All those steps, there are emissions associated with them. And that's about 1/3 of this pie. And then there is land use change, which means anytime there is deforestation for agriculture, that activity goes in the green part. And that is about 20%. So that's basically the pie of emissions right now, which is about 16 gigatons. So emissions are measured in gigatons. 1 gigaton is 1 billion tons. So this is 16 gigatons, which is about 31% of global emissions right now. Now in this chart shows us that it's actually a problem which is bigger than was previously thought. There are parts of this which I want to highlight. One is in the orange part, you'll see the biggest category is something called enteric fermentation. Those of you who've taken science classes I want to ask you, what is enteric fermentation? The students in the back. Take a chance, there's no points associated with it. I will not take a test. If you want to say something, just scream out from the back. Maybe I'll give a hint. So there's crop and livestock in that orange part. Enteric fermentation is associated with livestock. Livestock meaning? What is livestock? Cattle, yes. Then? Fish, poultry, yes. Anything else? It also includes small ruminants, which is goats, etc. Sheep, correct. So, enteric fermentation is associated with cattle production. Okay? Cows or any cattle actually, their stomach is very interesting. They keep chewing. You've seen cows on the side of the street, right? They're chewing all day long. And their stomach actually has 4 parts to it, which is different from others. And they, every time they eat something, and when they actually after that digest it, there's a fermentation process happening in their stomach. There's bacteria inside all our stomachs, there's bacteria. But in cows, there's a different kind of bacteria which releases a gas called methane. From whatever food they eat, it releases methane. Now, what is so special about methane? Can anyone tell me? Highly inflammable. Why is it highly inflammable? Go ahead, please. Yes. Yes. So, highly inflammable in this context, in the context of climate, what does it mean is, it is actually causes 80 times more global warming than carbon dioxide. Okay? It acts very fast. When it goes to the atmosphere, it acts very fast, traps heat 80 times faster than carbon dioxide. Which means that even small amounts of methane have much bigger impacts than carbon dioxide. And cows are emitting a lot of methane. Okay? That's the enteric fermentation part. The other part is manure. What is manure? Cow dung, exactly. Now, what happens to cow dung? What do we do to cow dung in India? We use it for vermicomposting. That's a very good way to use it actually. Most of the time, we don't actually do a good job of using it. Most of the time, it's left on the farm, left on the field, somewhere. Or people also use it for heating, right? You have seen this on the side of the road, dung cakes.
Gobar gas.
Gobar gas also is a very good way to use it. You are now actually saying things which will come later in the presentation, the solutions. But if you don't do anything to cow dung, again, it releases methane. Big source of methane. And these two, if you can see the numbers, are 17.6%, 8.3%. So about 1/4 of the emissions are coming just from how we handle livestock. Okay? So if you improve the way we handle livestock, if we do things like vermicomposting, biogas, you start to reduce this 25% that you see over here. Okay? There are other things also in there which are quite important. One I'll point to is the land use change part, again, net forest conversion. Every time in India we have something called shifting cultivation. You might have read it in your geography textbooks. Does anyone remember what is shifting cultivation? Yes.
The farmers cultivate a fertile area,
Yeah.
and then when the fertility of that area comes down,
Yeah.
they burn that area and they shift to another fertile area.
Correct. And when they shift to another fertile area, what do they do?
They burn the crop, I think so.
So they burn the forest to
Yeah,
create a new
yeah,
area which they can plant. That is deforestation. Why are they doing that? You said it yourself. The first part was when they cultivated on a fertile area, now the fertility is low. It's no longer producing as much crop as it used to. So they go and shift to the forest. Now this practice is not the only way it happens, but the deforestation happens in many other ways. In Brazil, they go and deforest huge tracts of the Amazon, which is the world's lungs. Why do we say the world's lungs? What do lungs do? Sorry, say that again? Correct. The lungs take in air, purify it, and then our body can absorb it. That's exactly what the Amazon does. It takes in the air which is polluted, purifies it, and that's what makes Brazil a better place to live. But Brazil is also the world's largest producer of soy, of beef, of corn. How do they grow these things? They go with large machinery to take down parts of the Amazon, plant it there, and then that leads to. Now, what are trees doing? Each tree in the Amazon is an old tropical tree. When it's planted in the soil, it is storing carbon dioxide from millennia. Okay? The older the tree, the more carbon dioxide it stores. The newer trees don't store that much. So if you think about that, then you should never cut down old trees. But that's what happens in Brazil. That's what happens in Indonesia, for example, which produces palm oil. So that part, the green part, net forest conversion, those are the emissions coming from cutting down forests for food. So we'll come back to this in other ways. Now I just want to show you this figure which basically, you see the red line and the green line. The red line tells you that if you only reduce the emissions from other sectors, from energy, transport, industry, by 2075 the world will be 2 degrees hotter. And if you were to act on food emissions also, then by 2050 the world will be less than 1.5 degrees hotter. Now why is 1.5 important? Can anyone tell me? I see some hand in the back, maybe somebody is stretching. But why is 1.5 degrees important? It's a very important number.
Is it that after that the change becomes irreversible or something like that?
Yes, part of it is that this is 1.5 degrees hotter than pre-industrial revolution. So if the world is 1.5 degrees hotter than pre-industrial revolution, a lot of the changes become irreversible. Right? You know of reversible reactions, irreversible reactions. This is irreversible. You cannot now come back to a cooler planet. And 1.5 degrees may not sound like a lot, but human beings live in a very thin band of temperatures. We cannot handle temperatures once they exceed that band. In Jamshedpur now, what is the hottest day? In the summer? 48, 47. 1.5 will take you to about 50. If you go up to the top one, you are past 50. What will that mean for this city? Everybody will need air conditioning. You cannot work outdoors. No construction worker will be able to work for more than a few hours, if lucky. Farmers will not be able to work outdoors. Human activity will reduce, if not completely stop in many cases. So, the world target is 1.5. This was a target at the Paris Agreement in 2015. We cannot keep to this target if you don't do anything about food emissions. That's the basic point here. Now, who is doing all this emitting? Now, as we know historically, it is true that the industrialized countries had the highest emissions, and that is still true for when you look at the entire economy. But we are catching up very quickly. If you look at just the agri-food system, the top emitter is China, second is Brazil, third is India. All three are developing countries, upper middle income countries. Then is United States. In fact, of the top 10, 7 are middle income countries. There's one low income country in orange also called Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. I used to work in that country also. Why is it? Can anyone tell me why Congo is in that list? Can you take a guess? Congo does not have a lot of industrial activity, does not even have a lot of agriculture. But why is it in that list? It's a very large country in Africa. It also is a heavily forested country. Heavily forested like Brazil, like the Amazon. The second largest tropical forest in the world is in the Congo. And that's being, again, similar story, that's being cut at a very fast rate, both for food but also energy. People use the wood for their homes. It's an extremely poor country. So they use the wood to heat their homes. Now, this graph tells you, if you break it up, on the left is low income countries, in the middle is middle income, and the right is high income. It tells you a number of things. One is that emissions are growing over time. So if you compare 1990 to 2018, you'll see all three categories emissions are growing. Food emissions. But they are growing fastest in the middle income country category. Right? They're growing slowly in low income. High income, very, very slow. Now, where are all the emissions coming from? You'll see interestingly here there is the blue bars. In the low income country there is no blue, which means what? Blue corresponds to pre and post production. So everything from how food is packaged, how it is transported, how it is processed, how it is disposed. All of those factors, as countries become richer, that part of the economy keeps growing. Now all of you, how many times do you order from Swiggy or Zomato in 1 week? Yeah, you can be honest, 5 times? 3 times? No?
Teenagers nowadays, they are used to give the order for every day 1 meal.
Every day 1 meal. Okay, 7 meals a week, right? Now, that food comes to you in some containers, right? That food, somebody is driving to send you that food. They're coming on a scooter, they're coming on a, sometimes cycle also. The scooter is emitting carbon dioxide. The food that you get in containers, there is, to make those containers, you need to actually emit some carbon dioxide. All that is in this food packaging, food disposal category. Disposal actually is a different issue also. How do we dispose of our food? We normally throw it in a bin. Somebody comes and collects the bin. What happens to the bin after that? Where does the food go? Can anyone tell me? Sorry? Recycle. I mean, if they recycle, that would be a fantastic solution. Most of the time they don't recycle. It goes to a landfill. It's buried under the ground, and we forget about that food. And that food, which is buried under the ground, also over time decomposes, and there's emissions. You can recycle food, and it happens in South Korea. They have a system where each household, they have a lot of small side dishes with every meal. There's kimchi, there will be some chutney, there will be some small pieces. So all that they collect, put it in a bag, take it out of the house, and put it in a machine which weighs how much food have you put in. And that amount is credited as money into your account. Because that food is then sent to a recycling center. It is recycled into what? Into energy. They use that food, combine it with animal waste to make biogas. They produce fertilizer using that food waste, and also feed for animals. So food, feed, fertilizer, and gas. They get 4 things out of it. And why does South Korea do this? South Korea does not have enough energy of its own. So it has to use every possible source to generate energy for itself. And South Korea borders China. It fears that sometimes its energy supplies can be cut. So it needs to have its own domestic energy. So that's the blue part. The other parts which are interesting is you'll see high income countries, the green is very small. There's very little deforestation happening now in Germany or Switzerland or Norway or Sweden. Why? Because they did it in the past. They've already done it. Now they're trying to replant things. It's called sometimes rewilding. They'll deliberately leave some areas completely. No one is allowed to have any housing there. There is no public infrastructure. You cannot do any farming. It has to go back to nature. It's called rewilding because you need forests to absorb carbon dioxide. Now, until now, I've been telling you a story which some of you actually already got the solutions. But I want to give you some good news that all the 16 gigatons of emissions that I was talking about can be cut to zero cost effectively by 2050. Now, cost effectively, what do I mean by cost effectively? So globally there's a standard of cost effectiveness of $100 per ton of carbon dioxide. So about 8,000 rupees per ton. And per ton, it's hard to sort of think of what per ton means. But basically some technologies are more expensive in reducing emissions. Some technologies are cheaper. Trees are the cheapest technology to reduce emissions. If you go and plant a tree and take care of it, that's the cheapest technology that exists. We don't do enough of it. It is something that's happening, but we don't do enough of it. We tend to also, there are other more expensive technologies, but each of them can be applied only in different settings. Nothing can be applied everywhere. So here you can see some solutions. Again, if I look at the on-farm piece first, you can see there is enteric fermentation, manure management. We talked about livestock. I want to focus on rice because we are a rice eating country, right? Rice is a big source of emissions. How do we produce rice normally? Anyone? Okay, let me make the question more narrow. Do we need irrigation for rice? Or in India, how is most rice irrigated? Is it by rainfall or is it through actual irrigation systems? Rainfall. And what happens to that rainfall? How do we use that water? We flood our fields with that water, right? And that water blocks the fields the rice is standing in the fields for about 2 months, sometimes longer, depending on variety. And what it does is it blocks the soil from receiving any oxygen, right? And all of the soil now is covered with water, and similar to the cow's stomach, a similar reaction happens under the soil. The bacteria under the soil, they start to produce methane. When you cut out the oxygen supply, it produces methane. So when finally the field is drained, all the water is drained, all this methane leaves the soil, goes up into the air, traps heat. How can we change it? Rice is grown in many different ways around the world. One of the ways that's been figured out is something called alternate wetting and drying. AWD, alternate wetting and drying. Instead of having the field be flooded for the entire period, it's flooded for 2 weeks, then water is drained out for another week. Then again water is brought in. So this kind of system has been done even in India, but more so in Vietnam, Philippines, China. And why do we do it? To stop the bacteria from doing their work. Because they were the ones who were creating methane. Give them some oxygen and they will stop producing methane. So, alternate wetting and drying. It is not successful everywhere. It's not that it will succeed in Jharkhand as well as Andhra. No, you have to test. Then there's something called direct seeding of rice. That also has a similar principle. So all these systems can reduce emissions from rice. Then there is, if you look at the pre and post production side, which we were talking about earlier, or an economist will call it the demand side. Things that you control, not what farmers control. So that's why I'm talking about this. There's one is reduced food waste. So how do we reduce food waste? We are all, when we order food, it tends to come in certain quantities, tends to get, if it's more than what we can eat, it gets spoiled, right? So either we have to limit quantities, or you have to find ways to store the food. And it can be stored, fridges, obviously, refrigeration is a major solution, but it doesn't exist everywhere. Shift diets. Again, a big part of emissions come from what we eat. And if we change what we eat, it can reduce emissions. Right? Now, a lot of emissions come from, if you look at on a per kilo or per 100 grams category, you know what is one of the highest producing foods? Something which all of us enjoy, including me. It's chocolate. Right? When I saw it, I was extremely disappointed. I was saying, I don't know what I can do about this, if I can cut chocolate from my life. But chocolate is one of those things. There's also, if you're looking at meat production, one of the highest is beef, for example. And of course, in the West, it's consumed even more so. And there, the emissions, again, people are very resistant to change anything about their food. You know, if I tell you don't eat X, Y, or Z, you will say, why should I listen to you? Right? Only if it has some benefit to you, not just to the world, only if it has some benefit to you, do people usually change their diets. Either if it is about, sometimes foods which are bad for your heart, and people cut them out. So there is a category of foods which are more emission intensive as well as bad for your health. So those foods we can definitely try and reduce the consumption of. Right? So shifting diets is one of these things. The third is clean cooking. Clean cooking, we sort of got there, but basically if you switch from using dung cakes to other forms of cooking, clean stoves, that will reduce emissions as well. And then there are other categories there which we sort of talked about. Bioenergy refers to biogas, but also biomethane, which is that cars can run on liquid biomethane or bioethanol. In India also now bioethanol is a key part of the petrol you get at the gas station, at the petrol pump. So these are also ways of reducing emissions. Let me just now move to, this is a list of countries. Earlier I showed you emissions ranked by countries. This is cost-effective mitigation potential. So how much of those emissions can you cut cost-effectively? And here if you look at this list, it's a similar list from what we had before, but the types of emissions are different. Again, maybe it's too small to see from the back, but essentially countries like Brazil, Indonesia, forests play a big role in actually cutting emissions. Now, sorry, it's a bit late in my presentation, but is everybody understanding everything I'm saying? I can also say some things in Hindi. I don't know every word in Hindi. I am a Hindi speaker, so I can try. So 80% of India's on-farm mitigation potential can be reduced cost-effectively. Okay? So 80% is a big number. And on-farm means only crop livestock production. And here again, enteric fermentation is the biggest source. And we are a big producer, exporter of milk, of dairy products, of beef as well. And there is a big role for enteric fermentation and manure management to reduce our emissions. Then there is something which you might have heard of a lot in the news. Our fertilizers are usually, what are the three types of fertilizers that you may know of? Or two also. Can anyone tell me? Yes, natural and chemical. In chemical, what are the types of fertilizers? Urea, yes. Good. Any more? Potassium. Yes, potassium is a key component. We say DAP for potassium. So urea and DAP are two of the main types of fertilizers. And urea releases nitrous oxide, the third gas that I talked about. Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. I said methane is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide is 240 times more powerful. Okay? It's just that, thankfully we don't emit as much nitrous oxide, but it is a big and powerful gas. And urea or any nitrogen-based fertilizer is a major emitter. So one of those things we can do is switch to organic fertilizers or follow rules about how much fertilizer should be used. In India, we use excess fertilizer. And the other, we've talked about rice water, zero tillage. There's also, we can replace all our irrigation pumps. They are powered by diesel to be solar pumps. And this is being done. So I'm being told to move along quickly, so I'll sort of now focus on a few slides. One, this is just to show you that countries, if you look at their NDCs is nationally determined contribution. What will they do to reduce climate change? You will see that increasingly agriculture and food is being covered in more and more NDCs, which is a good sign. But the ambition is not yet there. Everyone says we'll do it, but how do we do it? They don't specify. And this is an activity where all parts of society have to come together. It's not just a government and farmers activity. It requires businesses to be involved, civil society to be involved, international organizations like the World Bank to be involved, to actually provide the financing, the technologies to do this at scale. Right now, the world basically gets, if you look at financing, the total climate financing in the world, that big blue circle is $660 billion. Of that, agriculture and food is the dark green circle in the bottom. That gets $28 billion. So it's about 4.3%. So it's 31% of the problem, but 4% of the finance. So it's a huge gap. It needs to be corrected. And mitigation is even smaller. So we did some estimates of how much would it take to actually get to net zero in agri-food systems. And our estimate is about $260 billion per year. Now remember, the climate deal this year is $300 billion for every sector of the economy. And I'm telling you, we need $260 billion just for agri-food systems. That's why it's a paltry sum. And this itself is about an 18-fold increase from where we are. So, these are the same numbers I was just talking about. What this all means is that a lot of the financing has to come from domestic budgets, from countries' budgets, not just what they receive internationally. Government budgets as well as private sector. In India, we have corporate social responsibility. Each company has to allocate 2% of its profits towards corporate initiatives, sustainability initiatives. That's a big pool of money as well. Now this figure is just showing you that today our governments support agriculture, but in ways that are not good for the environment. What do we support mostly? Fertilizers. We'll give fertilizer subsidy. The same urea and DAP, which causes a lot of nitrogen-based emissions. So if you change, government should support farmers, but if they change the way they support farmers, if they give incentives to adopt better methods, better technologies, you can get lower emissions as well as higher productivity. And that's the message here essentially. Now this is just telling you, there are various ways of financing this kind of change. We've talked about, governments and private sector. There are also international carbon markets. Now what do carbon markets do? Carbon markets, you can buy and sell the right to pollute. It's a very counterintuitive point, but basically what governments can do is say you can pollute X up to X amount of emissions per year, and companies can trade that amount. Now the opposite can also happen. You can reward farmers for reducing their emissions, because there are others on the other side of the market who are paying an amount to actually reduce emissions, right? So we have to bring our farmers in connection with those who are willing to pay to reduce emissions. Now, who are these people who are willing to reduce to pay emissions? Think of the oil and gas companies of the world, the Shell, the Chevron, BP. All these companies have to reduce what they emit, so they can actually pay. This graph is just showing us that the World Bank's financing has increased about 8-fold to support what we call climate smart agriculture. Again, the point that we made earlier, that farmers have to be really supported to do this, because they are bearing the costs and the risks of changing technologies. So I'll conclude. This is the last slide here, which basically summarizes what low, middle and high income countries have to do. For high income countries, they have to promote renewable energy, green energy, so wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear, what we talked about. And they have to provide more financial support. We talked about $300 billion, it has to be way more than that. And technologies to other countries. And they have to shift their subsidies towards foods which are high emission intensive. Middle income countries, again, we talked about reducing conversion of forests, cutting methane in livestock and rice, using cleaner processes in pre and post production. And for low income countries, they have a chance to avoid the mistakes that others have already made. So they can actually preserve and restore forests and improve these kinds of practices in climate smart agriculture. So I'll stop there, and thank you so much for being very patient. I don't know if we have enough time for Q&A, but if there are any questions, I'm here available to respond. Yes, please. Okay.
Hello, sir. Actually, I want to ask that you are talking about that saving the environment along with the economy. But I don't find, any country which can develop their economy without, harming the environment. For instance, that India was also primarily agrarian economy, but the development that India has seen, it is because it shifted from agriculture to most prominently service sector and industrial sector. And while we are talking about using renewable sources of energy, setting up those, setting up the solar panels and all these things requires huge cost. And we know how good our government is on doing all these things. So what do you think that, कितने सालों बाद ये सपना साकार होगा? सुनने में अच्छा लग रहा है, but what will be the reality?
Yeah. आपने जो सवाल पूछा है, it's a very legitimate or real question. लेकिन what I would say is कि आप disappointed ना हो। आपने कहा सपना कब साकार होगा, अगर सपना ना देखें तो साकार नहीं होगा। और my first, what I would tell you is कि it is true कि कई जगह there are trade-offs between environment and economy. I agree. लेकिन it is not true कि you cannot grow without harming the environment. ठीक है? इसमें there are many examples globally of countries which have either done two things. One, they have found ways of growing जिसमें there is no damage to the environment, or they have grown and then started to protect the environment. ठीक है? So both are possible. And if you go to the, if you travel to any of the more industrialized countries in the world, you will not see the type of pollution, for example, that we see now in our country. They have grown rich. They have done the industrial production. Where has the pollution gone? They still have industry. It's not that they don't, but they have found ways of reducing it. And even here, Jamshedpur, actually, you can speak to people who work in Tata Steel. Over time, it has adopted new ways of producing steel which reduce the pollution from the process. Right? Lekin this is not true of, if you go to Delhi, I think 2 weeks pehle, the AQI was 1875, 1875. That is the highest in the world of all time. Okay? And part of it was because of Delhi's own construction, own industry. But a large part of it was crop burning. All of you know this joke. Crop stubble, how is it disposed? By burning it off. Right? From Punjab, Haryana, it goes to Delhi. We don't need to do this. ये जरूरी नहीं है. There is no trade-off यहाँ पे. अगर हम उस crop stubble को use करें, you can actually recycle it to generate energy. You can generate fertilizers. ये सब हो सकता है, होता है. But it has not happened at the scale we need to make a difference. That doesn't mean it will not happen. So let's not lose hope. That's my, if you look, for examples, there are examples globally. So we should not think that we are different. Okay? Was there anyone else?
Good afternoon, sir. So, as we are here, and our main topic is harnessing the power of education to embrace and adopt the green initiative.
Yes.
So, how can we encourage people or consumer to adopt the more sustainable diets, such as like plant-based, locally sourced food, to reduce the carbon footprints in the food production?
Yeah, very good question. And this is something all of us actually, we are going in the opposite direction. Right? As countries grow richer, diets tend to become more meat heavy. This is what has been seen historically. But in the past, they did not know the environment impact of meat. Now we know, right? So I think we have to moderate ourselves. Plant-based alternatives we have बहुत हैं. Now you can find, chicken made from corn or soy. Okay? And it sounds funny, but actually the taste is not that different. And you will see more and more of that happening. And this is a choice we make every day when you go to the supermarket, or when you eat, when you cook something. And it is healthier for us, right? Every doctor will say have more vegetables. It's a different question whether you like vegetables or not. But the point is that it can help both you and the environment. So let's try and do it. And I'm trying to practice what I preach also. It's difficult for me as well. But I think we have to all be a bit more conscious. And that's what education is doing, right? It's making us more conscious and to think a little bit more when we make these choices.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights. Any questions from the audience?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So you said that government give the permit to the company to emit a certain amount of pollution, like they do,
Yes.
they can do it.
Yeah.
But is it right to give that? Because ultimately our aim is to being a carbon negative country, or is it right ethically to give them the permission?
Yeah. So it's, yes, ideally we would want to live in a world where there is no emissions happening, right? But that would also be a world where there is very little activity, economic activity happening. And especially with industrial activities. Isliye the permit is a kind of practical solution. It says if we cannot ban every company and industry and say they cannot produce it. We say, okay, you do it, but within a certain limit. And we will enforce that limit, the government. And that's what allows then whoever is more efficient, whichever company is more efficient, can stick below that limit. Whichever is not efficient, they cannot. So they have to then actually buy more permits. But the overall level in society is then fixed. Instead of not being able to monitor anything, right? So it's a practical solution. It's not the, zero solution. It is not the net zero or net negative solution. But it recognizes what the earlier question was. There are sometimes trade-offs between economic growth and environmental objectives.
Thank you, sir. I welcome Mrs. Lalita Chandrasekhar, Chairperson Administration, who has just joined us. I now request Mr. V. Chandrasekhar, Mrs. Lalita Chandrasekhar, Satish sir, Sripriya ma'am, and Sudha ma'am to present the token of appreciation to Ashish present sir. Now I request Ms. Moshmi Datta to introduce us with the next speaker, Mrs. Vijayam Kartha, who will join us virtually. A very warm afternoon to our respected patrons, distinguished guests, management members, principals, vice principals, faculty members, and my fellow students. I, Moshmi Datta, on behalf of DBMS College of Education, feel both honored and privileged to have the opportunity of introducing Mrs. Vijayam Kartha, an esteemed
educational consultant and trainer. As a core team member of the Educational Today, Society Tomorrow program, a flagship initiative by the global organization Initiatives of Change, she champions the belief that personal change can lead to societal change. With ETST's motto, Reinventing Schools and Rebuilding the World, she actively promotes a vision where education fosters both individual and communal growth. Her career journey reflects her passion for educational development and societal benefit. Ma'am strongly believes in the power of value-based quality education to transform society, as well as the teachers are crucial in the role of nation building. Beginning as a librarian, she progressed through the roles of increasing responsibility from a teacher to becoming one of the founder trustees and come vice chairperson of Kerala Public Schools, a chain of 9 formal schools and 4 free project schools for the underprivileged in Jamshedpur. Throughout her career, Ma'am has initiated many impactful practices like exams without invigilator, utilization of free hours of English medium schools to support free education for slum children, village development programs, rural school adoption, camp school for out-of-school tribal girls, environment conservation activities, etc. Her remarkable contributions have earned her national recognition, including the National Award for Teachers from the Government of India, along with acknowledgements from Confederation of Indian Industry, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, etc. Her work for the underprivileged has been lauded by the UNICEF and World Bank. Her journey exemplifies the power of education in nation building and societal transformation. Ma'am is currently advising several schools and NGOs, helping them with leadership engagement and training, school certification and expansion, and curriculum upgrades with focus on value-based education. I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to study under her leadership when she was served as the principal of Kerala Samajam Model School. Today, it is an honor to introduce her for the session. I now invite Ma'am to share her experience on enhancing environment sustainability through schools, which I am sure will enlighten and inspire us all. Welcome you, Ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for this great opportunity. At the outset, congratulations to DBMS College of Education for organizing such a landmark program. I couldn't listen to Dr. Ashish present completely because there were some disturbances, but I'm sure his talk has given enough food for thought and action for each one of you there. I wish I were there in person, Jamshedpur, which was my karma bhumi for 38 years, but I'm happy that at least I am here with all of you, at least online. Once again, thank you. I'm going to talk as a spokesperson for schools across the country, especially schools of Jamshedpur. Schools are doing some brilliant work in the field of environment, as all of us know. Dr. Ashish was talking at the global level and what we can do at the local level. So I'm going to focus on what schools can do in their for environment conservation. Can I have this next slide, please? Can I have the next slide? Next. Next. I could have, yeah. So let me start with a quote which I'm very, very fond of. Can we go back? Yeah. This is a beautiful quote according to me. spoken by Gus Perth, an US advisor on climate change. He says, I used to think that top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science could address these problems. I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and spiritual transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. I feel so meaningful, isn't it? Whatever environmental problems we are seeing around us, if we look at the root cause of it, we will see it's apathy, it's selfishness, it is greed of us human beings. Then, who can fix this problem? Next slide, please. Who can address these problems and bring in a cultural and a spiritual transformation? I feel parents and teachers can do that, mainly teachers, mainly schools, because just like the doctors are trained to heal, just like the judges are trained to deliver justice, we are trained to educate children, educate, not teach, preparing them for life, giving them, helping the students to equip with the right attitude, skills, and knowledge to face a difficult world, especially in these times. So I feel schools have a great role in environment conservation. Another reason is a cross section of society walks into a school every other day in the form of teachers, students, and parents. Parents from different walks of life converge in a school. You know what rich human resources we are blessed with. Every school is blessed with such rich human resources, and I feel if we could tap into these resources, we can create a small paradise around us. Each school can create a small beautiful world around its campus, I believe. Next slide. uh, so what were our traditions? I think I know you will agree with me that India, we always believed in the interconnectedness and interdependence of this universe. We looked at all forms of nature with a lot of gratitude and reverence. People still say that we are superstitious, maybe, but we had a lot of reverence and gratitude for all the elements, all the five elements, everything we looked at with awe and gratitude. So many of our Upanishad slokas from the Upanishads talk about the importance of trees, keeping the water clean, and all those things. And I remember as a child, and even now, as soon as I woke up, I recite two slokas. One is Karagre Vasade Lakshmi. That means everything, wealth, knowledge, everything is in your hands. That the first one means. The second one is Samudra Vasane Devi Parvadasthanamandide. Vishnu Patni Navastubhyam Padaspasyam Kshamassume. Even till date, I recite this as soon as I get up from my bed as a practice. And now I believe in it. The sloka says, I am going to step on you, Mother Earth. Please forgive me. That sort of a reverence our forefathers used to have for this land. But now things have changed. We are polluting rivers. We are cutting down trees. All those things are there. So we have such a rich tradition, and now Guspeth is talking about again a spiritual and cultural transformation. And what does our new education policy say? It says education must build character, enable learners to be ethical, rational, compassionate, and caring, while at the same time prepare them for gainful, fulfilling employment. It also talks about the need of helping students understand their fundamental duties and helping them imbibe citizenship skills and values. And I believe, and I'm sure most of you will agree with me, a very well planned and executed annual eco calendar will result in not only environmental conservation, but also in inculcating all the above skills and values in our students, resulting in cultural and spiritual transformation, which Guspet talks about. We all know people talk about unemployment, but at least in schools, and many of my friends who are in the industries, they say there are employable people. The problem is unemployability. People have the required qualifications, but they lack the skills and knowledge and the attitude. Most importantly, the attitude. And that is the reason many of them are not getting good jobs. So if we plan our eco calendar in such a way that we can fulfill both the objectives, helping the children to acquire the right attitude, knowledge and skills, at the same time conserve the environment, at least in their immediate space. Next. So a sample eco calendar, I will be sharing this link with you. Those who are interested can go through it. It's a Google link. Anybody can access to it. I would like to share what are the main aspects or what are the highlights of this eco calendar, because many of you must be thinking, as schools we are already doing so much of in the field of environment, and most of you must be already having an eco calendar. Then what is so special about this calendar? The speciality is it may help you to deepen and expand your work, and as I told right at the beginning, maybe create a small paradise around your school campus. Next one. And go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So, what are the objectives of this annual eco calendar? First one, be part of the global environmental conservation movement by thinking globally and acting locally. Somebody in the audience was talking about, like we feel desperate or we feel depressed, but then we can't solve great problems at global level, but we can all solve all the problems at a local level. That is, I may be too optimistic and I say that, but with my experience, I am talking about it. Secondly, help students acquire critical knowledge about safeguarding the environment. The children spend their formative stage in the schools, so it is the school's duty to equip them with that sort of a knowledge which will help them to lead a very environment-friendly life. It should also help them to imbibe attitudes and skills like empathy, social responsibility, critical thinking, teamwork, and problem-solving skills. So one side, we are implementing new education policy dictates in the classroom, in the school. At the same time, on the other hand, through the same program, we are trying to conserve the environment. And I also thought another most important objective can be introducing volunteering activities for students. Many students, my ex-students from Kerala Samajam Model School or Kerala Public Schools, once they go abroad and sometimes they write back to us saying, "Ma'am, can you issue a certificate? I have worked in that village, Simuldanga. I had done some work there. Somehow I don't have a certificate." So these days, many universities look for volunteering experience of students, which will enhance their, admission possibility. So this can be another objective for this, this whole program. Next one. Next slide, please. So how do we go about it? So here is the first shift I would like to suggest. Maybe some of you already must be doing it. In case you are not doing it, I thought if every school can adopt 1 kilometer radius or less or more of the school and convert it into a model of a clean, green, and prosperous India by establishing environmentally sustainable practices. Normally, most of the schools, what I have seen, please correct me if I am wrong, most of the schools, we undertake a lot of environment related activities, but it is not a concerted, it is not focused on a particular place. I am suggesting if we could adopt 1 kilometer or half a kilometer, if you can't do that, at least the road on which your school stands, and make it clean, green, and a prosperous India. Maybe there are some people who sell golgappas, and those people, food sellers are there, who are from very poor families. Can you help them to do the same thing more hygienically, help them to earn a little more? I think with school, with its rich resources, your parents, teachers, and some of the students who are so passionate about it, we can all do it. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, if you find that we are in the middle of a city, it's so difficult and all, maybe you can adopt a village or a slum for developmental work and convert it into a model one. I remember as a principal of Kerala Samajam Model School, in the 90s, we had adopted a village, Simbuldanga, in Jamshedpur, in the outskirts of Jamshedpur. And this was our objective. We wanted to create a model village there. When we went, there were not, even though it was a village, we were surprised that there was not many trees. People were not cultivating vegetables. They were only into paddy cultivation. Even though it was a village, there was a scarcity of water. Thanks to Mr. Bodhanwala, we could help, deepen the village pond, and the villagers say even now, the water doesn't dry. And I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Bodhanwala for this. How we can network with good people in the society to get work done. And my experience says that you don't need a big budget, or you don't need a lot of money to do all this work. This was the best example. So, in that village where we adopted, we ensured that every household had a postal saving account. Those days, Jantan Yojana hadn't come in, so we ensured that every family get into the habit of saving. We started self-help groups there. We introduced organic farming, vermicomposting, vocational training for people, and we gave them employment in our school. Some of those villages are still working in Kerala Samaja Model School and Kerala Public Schools. So, I am told that even now, when some of these officers, government officials, come from Ranchi, they are taken to this village to show the sort of work which has happened and which is still happening. Which I think Kerala Samaja Model School is still continuing with some of its work there. So, what else should we do? We should form a committee to plan and execute the eco-related activities, include interested teachers, students, and parents into it. Normally, in every school, we have an eco club, and there is a teacher who is in charge of an eco club, maybe a few students. I'm just suggesting that can we include some passionate parents into it, so that it will reduce the teacher's workload and you will get better guidance. There may be people who are working already in such departments, Department of Forest, or many other departments. Or since you are in Jamshedpur, Tata Steel Foundation, and the initiatives from Telco. I'm not getting the name now. Gram Vikas Kendra, all these people can come forward to help us to execute our plans. So first, what should we do? We create a committee, and then we conduct a need assessment survey. If it is around your school, or if it is the village, go around and with a proper questionnaire, what are their needs? List down those needs. Is there a water scarcity, or is there poverty? What is the problem in that village? What are the things which the villagers are looking for? If we can do a need assessment survey, and keep in mind the objective is establishing environmentally sustainable practices and create a model of a clean, green, and prosperous India. Next, please. So then what can we do? Again, there is a little shift here. I suggest normally we have student volunteers, and they are taken to the villages. That's what I used to do. I'm sharing from my experience. Maybe you have better, you might be having better, practices. What I'm suggesting is, if senior students can be inspired to make teams, maybe a team of 4 or 5 students or 10 students, and they can bid for different initiatives based on the need assessment survey findings. So once the need assessment survey is done, you identify what are the initiatives, like for example, we need awareness campaigns, we may need tree plantation drive or water conservation activities, waste management, summer camps. So whatever are the initiatives the village or that slum or that that locality needs, you prepare a proper list, and then we can ask the senior students to bid for these things. They should come and say that, the leader should come and say, I would like to, our team would like to take up awareness campaigns. Maybe our team would like to take a tree plantation drive. That way, the students can be asked to bid for these programs. So again, how it will help? Again, it will help the children in decision making, in preparing a project, in critical thinking, team management, conflict resolution. A lot of skills the children will acquire through this one activity. So either this can be done by the senior students, or this can be considered as projects by Scouts and Guides, Interact Club, or a designated Eco Club enthusiasts. So it can be either senior students or uh, one of these groups. So then what should they do? The team should submit a brief proposal on a given format containing the timelines, budget, execution details for the project they wish to lead, and the committee should ratify it. So the children learn even those skills, how to prepare a small budget, what are the things which will go. If I am going to conduct, if I am, my team has taken up awareness campaign, what all awareness campaigns are needed in that particular place? When are the dates when I am going to do it? When will be the students free to do it? Whether we will need some money to go travel, maybe in all those things the children will learn how to prepare a small project, etc. And then we should involve the parents by sending them a detailed what, why, and how of what we are doing, so that the parents become partner to it. These days most of the parents are very upset when we talk anything about other than academics. They feel my student has to get he should get 90% and above, and he should not be his mind should not be diverted from studies. So we have to first convince them why these programs are so much essential, not only for the students' growth, personal and professional growth, but also for the entire humanity. Because we can't be happy as individuals. Our lives are so interconnected that if the parents want their children to be happy, the whole world has to be happy these days. We all know. So we have to sort of convince the parents the importance of conducting these activities. And even yesterday I was reading this article, how kindness can help children to succeed. As per studies, they say kindness is one skill or value which will help the children to succeed in their personal and professional lives. Can we see the next slide, please? So, what is important? A whole school approach and collaboration with reputed NGOs, local industries, government organizations, Rotary Lion clubs, and other local schools should be given extra weightage. What do you mean by a whole school approach? It's not only limited to the senior classes, even students from nursery should be involved in this activity. How can they be involved? For example, if we have got programs under reuse, recycle, etc., we can ask students from even nursery to bring old clothes in good condition, maybe old shoes, maybe utensils which you want to provide to the people who are really in need of it. So we can see how the whole school can be uh, uh, considered while preparing the project. So when preparing the project, the students have to ensure that wherever possible, however possible, the whole school is actively involved. Secondly, how can we collaborate with reputed NGOs, local industries, government organizations, Rotary Lion clubs, and other local schools? More important, because most of the time we work in silos. It's so important that you have to take your other schools also along with you. And Jamshedpur is such a blessed place, I feel. Like you have the presence of all these, and all these organizations are always ready to help them. I remember we while as the vice chairperson of Kerala Public School, we had started an eco club network where around 25 schools, 26 schools were members, and together we have done immense tree plantation with the help of the forest officer at that point of time. And he was such an amazing person that he worked with us for as long as he was there in Jamshedpur, and we could do tremendous work in the field of environment. Like we did awareness campaigns on, for example, ozone layer depletion, etc., and tree plantation, for which he got the Indira Priyadarshini award for environment. And he was it was so nice of him to send us a letter saying that he got that award because of all the work done by the schools of Jamshedpur. So how networking, how partnering people with the right people can enhance the quality and quantity of your work is an example. Same with Rotary and Lion clubs. I'm sure they will be very happy to join hands with schools for any meaningful work, and local industries. We did some work with Tata Steel that time, TSRDS, then Gram Vikas Kendra. All these people are always ready to help us with their resources whenever we need. So I think schools can enhance, deepen, and expand their work with the help from all these people. And each team will have mentors from the teachers and parent community. Basically, the project will be driven by the students so that it helps them to understand their fundamental duties, their civic responsibilities, how to be empathetic, how to be kind, how to be socially responsible. So at the same time, a teacher and a parent, or maybe teachers, a few teachers and parents, can be mentors to each of these teams. And every participating student should get a certificate which will be of utmost value to him in his future career. Next one, please. Next slide. So what can be a few essential projects? Awareness campaigns on burning topics. Even now, many people are unaware of many things, like even voting rights. Many people don't even go to vote. So maybe that also can be an awareness campaign for students. The other day I read that there is a post office savings scheme with a very small sum. Anybody can get that. It's a health, I think health insurance scheme. I did not know. So even when educated people like us do not know, how do these people who are working with us, who are living in the villages or in the slums, know about it? So we can conduct some such awareness campaigns on to them, even on other topics like why you should not burn plastics or all those things. Activities under reduce, reuse, and recycle. I'm sure many schools are doing, like we can collect old textbooks and distribute it, discouraging children to buy new books if the old books are still in vogue. Same way with recycling. A lot of our clothes, many will be very happy to receive old clothes in good condition. So I remember what we used to do before puja holidays. We used to ask our children to donate their old clothes, but in one condition: it should be absolutely in good condition. It should be ironed, and it should be packed not as a gift packet, but as with newspapers they can pack it, and they have to write on the top girl, age 8 to 10 or 10 to 12, and they have to submit it. So we used to get it. So it's very easy for people to select it. They can pick up looking at the age and what gender, etc. I know some schools which go a step ahead, which I wanted to do, but I never could do. They used to, set up a market in school and invite all the people who are interested to come and choose the uh, clothes or whatever they want. So the students will set up a market, and people can come and pick up whatever they want and go. So then tree plantation drives, we all do it, but then we can encourage our students that every parent can be inspired to have a balcony or terrace garden or Miyawaki forest, Nakshatra one, because in cities and all, it's very difficult, to get places to create a forest. But Miyawaki forest, it's a pocket forest. It's a very small place you need where you grow. Uh, uh, one second, one second, one second. So Miyawaki forest can be a pocket forest where all the native plants, indigenous plants and shrubs can be grown together. Even Nakshatravan, many of you must be knowing about Nakshatravan means we believe that there are 27 nakshatras, and for every nakshatra there is one tree, one animal and one bird, etc. So all these trees are indigenous trees. So if we grow a Nakshatravan, we are again promoting indigenous trees. Waste management, can we manage our waste at the local level instead of sending it to landfills? Can we create a vermicomposting pit in every school, at every home? Maybe we can, go for organic farming. Those children who are interested can do it. We can even use the school's vacant hours to run project schools for the underprivileged, for their empowerment and leadership. Or we can even have empowerment and leadership programs for local youth, or adult literacy classes, vocational training, etc. Because education is so important. Environment doesn't mean that only trees, plants, and all. It's human environment is so important. So can we use the vacant hours? I'm so happy that Jamshedpur has so many schools, including DBMS, Kerala Samajam Model School, Kerala Public Schools, Loyola. So many schools are already doing it. It will be wonderful if other schools can join hands. And I was invited by UNICEF in Ranchi and Lucknow to present this work with other schools, but many schools are very reluctant to do it because they think that the slum children will come and will dirty their premises. Our experience, I'm sure others will agree with you, our experience says that it doesn't happen. It is the other way. These children, our children learn, the English medium children learn a lot of values from these children from the Hindi medium or the project schools. So that can be, and if you don't want to run a full-fledged school there, we can think of having leadership programs or vocational training for the local youth, etc. And help the marginalized to get the benefits of government schemes. I've already spoke about, there are hundreds of government schemes and many people don't know, about it. So if we can educate them, help them to, avail those facilities. And I can't stop talking about the importance of networking and showcasing our work through social media. It's so important to network because the more people come together, the work gets, deepened and expanded. We are able to inspire each other. We are able to learn from one another. And when we share this, our work through social media, other people are inspired. In the past, people used to say, when you do something good, don't share. Now it's the other way. We have to share so that people come to know that, somebody is doing this, such things, we can also do it. And the next slide. So the age-old question, where is the time? I'm sure many of you must be having this thought. So much syllabus to be completed, and when will we do all these things? It's not easy. So the activities will be need-based and will differ from school to school, depending upon the work which you are taking up. For example, we had taken up village development. So twice a month or once a month, we used to go to the village. We used to take batches of children. Some children, they were regulars, they want to come, but otherwise it will be different sets of children, different batches, so that it doesn't become a burden for them. At the same time, everyone gets a taste of the work we are doing. And students, I have already. So it can be also part of the super work. We all have supposed the children, we all are supposed to mark the children under some useful and productive work. Let's do some real useful and productive work and mark them. And volunteering certificates will definitely inspire some children. At least, some students and parents are very happy to get certificates, so they will be very happy. Next. So remember, behavior is contagious, kindness is contagious. Kindness is so much contagious. That is what research says. There are a lot of studies which say that if people see somebody doing a kind act, the others normally tend to repeat it. So imagine the ripple effect schools can create if we all start taking up our environment related work more seriously. You are already doing it. If we can put a little more focus, more energy into it, what a beautiful world we can create around our schools. And maybe one day Jamshedpur can be an example to the rest of the country how schools can come together and create a beautiful city, together, clean, neat, green. And it's already there for Jamshedpur. All these adjectives are true for most of the cases, but we can enhance the quality. Next one. So I would like to end my session here. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm sorry I could not make it very interactive because I'm talking. I can't see the audience, but I'll be very happy if you have got any comments or any questions. With my limited knowledge, I would like to, respond. Thank you so much once again for this great opportunity. Thank you for listening to me.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
बोलो इसमें बोलो तो हो जाएगा चिकन
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, my question is, are there any eco calendar event that you feel are underrepresented or
Not able to hear you. Your voice is cracking. Can someone repeat it? Can you repeat it, please?
Yes. Ma'am, my question is very simple. Well, that eco calendar is one of the very effective way, and being a pupil teacher, I was very excited to hear this from you. And it was very interesting as well. Well, from the school initiative, it is okay, it is fine, but don't you think that we are indirectly creating a reversible reactions like the students are engaging in the school activities like that, but after coming back to home, still those things are being unaffected to them. So how and what we can make them approach that yes, you have to do it in your own society and the way you are living your natural life, other than your schools and responsible activities as they're being told to do as students.
It was not very clear, but I'm just repeating. But if I have understood what you have said is, like schools, we do all these things, but when we go back home, we forget about it. Did you mean that? we are not able to implement it in our own lives? Did you mean that? Are
Yes,
there
yes.
any calendar events that you feel are underrepresented or could use more focus on? Yeah, see, I'm not buddy to comment on any eco calendar. I have prepared one with my experience, so many years, the last 40 years of experience. I have prepared one based on whatever I have, read and all. So that is why I kept on talking about. I started with attitude, values, and knowledge. So just simply going and planting trees will not help. We have to inculcate that sort of skills, knowledge, and values in children right from childhood. That's why I talked about a all school approach. So school children are made aware of why we are doing. I also said that what, why, and how we are doing it. So that itself will create awareness in children. And my experience, my ex-students, many of them write to me saying that those visits to the village, the work they did in the village of Simuldanga, it really made a lasting impression in their lives. Most of the children, and you will also agree, when you do something with your own hands, when you are there, when you experience something, that experience lasts a lifelong. So that is, but then definitely there are some students, they will do it, it may not touch. I'm not talking about the minority, I'm talking about the majority. When we do something, we are touched. We feel when you go to a village or a slum, you see the pathetic life they lead, and that will stay with you. And you may feel, okay, I need to share whatever I have with someone. But there may be exceptions. I'm not talking about the exceptions. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Values to inculcated in the school to be reinforced at home too. Absolutely. Absolutely. But we can't, we can only request the parents to do this. We can't make them do it, isn't it? But I have seen again, as a teacher, as a principal, my experience is that many times where a parent fails, a teacher succeeds. I have so many such stories about children who never listened to their parents, but they used to listen to me. I remember a child calling up and telling me, many of them say that, we studied because of you, because you ensured that we studied. So we can only talk to parents, we can advise them, we can, share information with them through videos, through audios, through articles, we can share information. But as teachers, what we can do, we can really teach these skills in children. And again, research studies say that we can teach pro-social skills like empathy, kindness, and all in schools. That is research. In schools, if they really prioritize teaching empathy, kindness, forgiveness, etc., they can do it. That's what research says. So we should try to partner parents in our journey, but we should be happy doing our best, I feel. Thank you. I hope I answered. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Shailaja. Thank you, Shailaja. What can we incorporate into our daily routine from eco calendar in a cost effective manner, which are easy to do? Yeah. So many things, like we can do so many things. Like when we talk about refuse, don't buy things which are not necessary for you. Recycle. How can we recycle things at home? Like at my home, I make it a point that if I don't need something, I immediately decide to give it away. I don't hoard it. So this is one suggestion. Like every before in Jamshedpur, the Durga Puja is a great festival. Before that, you ask parents whatever you are not using, donate it to the school, and set up a market for the underprivileged, the marginalized to come and pick up. So then recycle, reuse. Uh, like in our schools, I used to ask our children after at the beginning of every academic session, The old notebooks, unused papers, I used to tell them, take it out and create a rough notebook for you. So many things. How do I save water at home? When I wash the rice, vegetables, I don't throw away the water. I keep it in a bucket and I use it to water our terrace garden. I don't use good water to water the terrace garden. I recycle my sarees, etc. with my sisters. So there is, when you start doing it, you will see hundreds of, you will get hundreds of opportunities to do it. Yeah. Okay. Even reducing the use of water. Many times we, switch on the tap and then we are standing and brushing the teeth. So many videos you must have seen. Take a, take water in a mug, even while washing. I never use a shower so that I know that I don't use more than a bucket of water. So there are, we can do so many things like unnecessarily you don't, when I have to print something, I tell the shopkeeper, print on both sides. He says, ma'am, I will take the same amount from you. I said, that's okay. Save one paper. You can, earn something extra, but you give me on both sides. So such simple things. Once you become environment, you are passionate about environment, you will get hundreds of ideas to do it. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, ma'am, Juhi, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other question?
Good afternoon, one and all present here. The Cambridge College of Education is going to organize an international conference on 13th and 14th of December 2024 titled Harnessing the Power of Education to Embrace and Adopt Green Initiatives. For that session, we have interviewed today and we have invited two of our distinguished guests, Dr. Ashish Prasan and Mrs. Vijayam Karma. Both the sessions were thoughtful and far-sighted. The major focus of this group was to be part of sustainability and taking the pledge to conserve and nurture our Mother Earth to strive towards a sustainable future. A healthy planet is a necessary condition to guarantee decent work, productive enterprises, and sustainable livelihood. The main focus of this green initiative seeks to understand the challenges and opportunities of the coming transition and help them to take up the active role that they must play in managing this change. So we strive definitely for making this a better place to live in. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed patron, Mrs. Bhagwati Neelakantan ma'am, chairpersons, Mr. B. Chandrasekhar and Mrs. Lalita Chandrasekhar. Your presence itself made this place divine. I would like to thank all the management members of DBMS College of Education, Shri Priya ma'am, Sudha ma'am, and Padma ma'am, for organizing this event and facilitating insightful sessions with the distinguished speakers. I would also like to thank Mr. Shankar Singh, sir, the DOT member, for his presence today. A heartfelt thanks to DBMS Kadma School management members for providing us with Kalakuni Auditorium as the venue and for all the other arrangements they did. I'm especially grateful to our chief guests, Dr. Ashish Prasan and Mrs. Vijayam Kalha for their informative and thought-provoking presentation. My sincere appreciation also goes to the principal of BBMS College, Dr. Judy Samapitana, and the principal of BBMS School, Mrs. Gurpreet Khamra, for your graceful presence. I would like to extend special thanks to Mr. Sudeep Pramane for the technical support today. I would like to thank Panditi and Abhijit also for the press release that will be there tomorrow. And the clippings would be shared to you in your group. My regards also goes to the teachers and students of DBMS College and DBMS Karma School for their active involvement. Special thanks to all the support staff for helping us in all ways. Heartfelt thanks to especially the students of DBMS College and school students without whom this session would have been without being successful. Let us continue to raise environmental awareness through education and work together to address the challenges of environment. Now I request everybody to kindly stand for the DBMS anthem.
Any other question?
Good afternoon to one and all present here. GBMS College of Education is going to organize an international conference on 13th and 14th of December 2024 titled Harnessing the Power of Education to Embrace and Adopt Green Initiatives. For that session, we had a prelude today and we invited two of our distinguished guests, Dr. Ashish Prasann and Mrs. Vijayam Kalpa. Both the sessions were thoughtful and far-sighted. The major focus of this prelude was to be the part of sustainability and taking the pledge to conserve and nurture our Mother Earth to strive towards a sustainable future. A healthy planet is a necessary condition to guarantee decent work, productive enterprises, and sustainable livelihood. The main focus of this green initiative seeks to understand the challenges and opportunities of the coming transition and help them to take up the active role that they must play in managing this change. So we strive definitely for making this earth a better place to live in. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed patron, Mrs. Bhanumati Neelkanthana, chairpersons, Mr. V. Chandrasekhar and Mrs. Lalita Chandrasekhar. Your presence itself made this place divine. I would like to thank all the management members of DBMS College of Education, Shri Priya Ma'am, Sudha Ma'am and Padma Ma'am, for organizing this event and facilitating insightful sessions with the distinguished speakers. I would also like to thank Mr. Shiv Shankar Singh Sir, the BOT member, for his presence today. A heartfelt thanks to DBMS Kadma School management members for providing us with Kalakriti Auditorium as the venue and for all the other arrangements they did. I am especially grateful to our chief guests, Dr. Ashish Prasann and Mrs. Vijayam Kalpa for their informative and thought-provoking presentations. My sincere appreciation also goes to the principal of DBMS College, Dr. Juhi Samarpita Ma'am, and the principal of DBMS School, Mrs. Gurpreet Bhamra, for your graceful presence. I would like to extend a special thank to Mr. Sudeep Pramane for the technical support today. I would like to thank Panditji and Abhijit also for the press release that will be there tomorrow, and the clippings would be shared to you in your group. My regards also goes to the teachers and students of DBMS College and DBMS Karma School for their active involvement. Special thanks to all the support staff for helping us in all fields. Heartfelt thanks to especially the students of DBMS College and school students without whom this session would have been without being successful. Let us continue to raise environmental awareness through education and work together to address the challenges of environment. Now I request everybody to kindly stand for the DBMS anthem.
Oh, dear DBMS, we are proud of you, will be true to